every business has to look at their business structure and how they make revenue and understand, am I set up for the future? Can I do this? Is my main revenue stream tied to the ability to provide this service? If I can no longer provide this service, if something can come in and do it faster, cheaper, more efficiently, will I survive?
The people right here that are paying 30, 40, 50% more for their groceries, which I think I can say is right.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's a disgrace. Because of what I do, I haven't been in these stores in a long time. Look, I gotta get some of this. We gotta get it. If you have anything left over, just take it. Okay? You guys, take it, give it to the rest of the store. Thank you again. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Watching that video right now, Pete, a lot of people right now were very indecisive on who they were going to elect, but then boom, everybody just went for Trump. Trump won. What are we going to do now? What are we going to see as far as the grocery bills going down, economy, all those different things, eggs being $4.89. Where do we go from here? What's your opinion on that? On the grocery?
So I'm glad you asked. That's a very interesting video. I think a lot of people don't understand that groceries are a product, correct? So pricing for products normally is the cost to get the product there, whatever the person paid for the product, and then a markup of whatever the overhead is for the grocery store. And that's how you come to your price. I think, and I'm going to kind of take a step back. What they're finding is that there's a temperature of how much a person is willing to pay for a product. If you remember during the pandemic, groceries were sky high, right? Because there was issues with getting the stuff to the actual store. So we had supply chain issues, right? So because of the supply chain issue, it then created this inflation of food cost. When the supply chain issue got fixed, when groceries were going good and the gas had come down, did the price of groceries go down a lot? No, because you were used to paying that price. So I'm going to bring it down just a little bit to give you a slight relief while still now having way more income. I challenged somebody before, if you think about this, and I hate to divulge my age here, but when I was growing up, there was a cashier. There were no automation. It was all cashiers. You had to find a line, try to pick who had not as much groceries, and you went to that person to go through the fastest, right?
Right.
They stated that if I have to continue to hire more people, it's going to cost more costs, and therefore your groceries will go up. So they implemented machines where you basically do the job yourself of bagging your groceries and putting your groceries through. And now it's a machine that probably after 6 months actually pays for itself.
Wow.
So why didn't the groceries go back down when you had automation? If more people and paying them a higher wage means it would cost more on the grocery side, having less cost should have made the groceries go down. But it did not, right? So a lot of this has to do more so with corporate greed than it does for actual inflation based on necessity. When I say that is perfect example, if the farmer now has to buy more for chickens to get the eggs, and now the eggs cost more, now they're charging me more, and then I pass it on to you, that's a natural progression of inflation. That's how things go up. But when you see cost staying level, but the price is going up, that is corporations saying, hey, we have an opportunity to make more money here. Let's take advantage of that. So
let me ask you this though. Hold on. So Kamala's plan, sorry, say her name. So her plan was basically a lot of people felt like it was a good one because she was like, listen, I'm going to go after these big stores and basically lower the pricing, price gouging. But a lot of economists said that when the government has control of, saying how much something basically causes, that messes with their supply and chain. Could you speak on that?
Yeah. So
would that work? Would that have been practical?
So in essence, we're a capitalistic society, right? So there's not supposed to be a cap on what we can make. The market's supposed to fix that. And they have shown that when prices go up to a certain point, there is a pressure point where people will make a change. They start using stores like Aldi's. They'll start going buying meat in bulk and going to actual butchers. Things will change and create, okay, I can't charge that much. Let me bring my prices down. Even gas has a pressure point. They've done studies that when gas gets near 4 gallon, people move closer to their jobs. People find alternative methodologies, electric cars that start doing different things. So the market is supposed to correct that, but the corporate gouging on necessities is amazing. Like people can't live without food. People can't go to places without gas. So I have mixed feelings about that, honestly. To limit somebody on how much money they can make, but at the same time to take advantage of people through tough times because something is going on to allow you to gouge the prices, knowing that you can't really go anywhere else. Like if you go into certain inner cities, it's a food baron. Right? You can't only go but 1 or 2 places to get food. So that person who has to already go far to get food, what are their options? What do they do? But it is interesting when you look at the cost versus what the prices are. And if you would look at it, it's steadily on an uptick of price ranges, but a pretty stable amount when it comes to the cost. So when I see those videos about things going up 30 and 40%, realistically, maybe 10% of that is real. Maybe 10% of that is real inflation or additional costs being built in, but the other 20% is going right to that owner's pocket, right to their bottom line. So,
Gotcha.
Yep.
So we got some questions for the people. So from the people. So small businesses, for example, how can small business owners future-proof their operations to really withstand their potential future economic downturns?
So I'm gonna go and ask and push back a question. What is the number one thing the United States produces? Service.
Service. Gotcha. Okay, service. Okay.
Our stuff is built on student loans, houses, and services.
Okay.
So when you're asking me questions like that, I'm telling you that people are going to find money. Employees are always the most expensive cost. So automation and AI is gonna happen. Right?
That was the next question. Okay.
Automation and AI is going to happen. What's going to happen is if there's something that's a mundane job or something that you need strategy or something not mundane but fairly reasonable, you're going to be replaced or reduced. Right? If I can get a machine to do it, if I can pay a subscription of $100 a month to have an AI figure these things out or come up with it, design this for me, and they can design it and pretty well. What do I need to pay you $2,500 a month for? Right? So realistically, every business has to look at their business structure and how they make revenue and understand, am I set up for the future? Can I do this? Is my main revenue stream tied to the ability to provide this service? If I can no longer provide this service, if something can come in and do it faster, cheaper, more efficiently, will I survive?
But here's the problem though. What happens when all these different companies start to let go of their employees and embrace more of the AIs? Where are everybody going to work?
It's one or two things going to happen. You're going to have a depression where people aren't working, right? Or you're going to have a society where no longer are people looking for work, but they're creating their own revenue streams by doing something related to AI, related to the internet, related to something that can work from abroad. Like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm sitting here, I'm constantly on my face. So my stream of Instagram and Facebook look a lot different than most people because there's a lot of business components hitting me left and right.
Right.
But I'm constantly saying, hey, Delta Airlines is hiring at-home customer service for $30 an hour. And everybody's like, that's great money. But think about this. The larger my call center has to be, right? If I had to have a 2,000 person call center, that means I need to have 4 floors of a building. You know what my rent is?
Yeah.
You know what my rent is probably $150,000 a month.
Yeah. This is why they go over to overseas and they use folks from the Philippines, from India, and that's why you're getting those folks right there, because the prices of things have basically gone up. So moving forward, so when you talked about AI technology, so as we go into this world of AI technology, what are key digital tools and trends that small businesses should invest in for growth and efficacy?
So I think they're going to have to understand their business structure, and then they're going to have to get involved in AI as well. They're going to have to figure out, even I'm going to tell you something technology wise, I think most small businesses are going to have to use AI for trending, for even investing, right? Because AI and for investing, you might be able to cut the middleman out and have something analyze your trends and then move things accordingly.
Right.
It's going to be an interesting period for the next 5 to 7 years from a technology standpoint. Now, here's the thing though, Mark. Can you always trust it? Is it corrupted? Is something going on that you don't know about? Like, who designed it? What's the overall, like, there's so many questions that we still don't know. Like, is this really the Jetsons era? Are we the Jetsons now? We can come in, a chair comes and gets us, we sit back and watch TV and get everything knocked out? Or is it the situation where we need to have that human interaction? Because the human interaction can analyze and you can actually see intent. You can't tell intent behind the AI. So if I'm like, okay, I want to do Bitcoin, but I want to make sure that I want to hit the uptrend. Let me know when it down ticks. Like, you can actually set it to do that. So now that technical stream of income, you might be able to have an AI mine your Bitcoin and make an additional $2,000-$3,000 a month. I'm thinking that realistically, a lot of smaller businesses are going to lean to less real staff, more virtual staff, right? They're going to also lean to doing certain things via AI. I actually saw something the other day that said, "Can AI do your taxes?" Right, and I was like, "Ooh."
Yes.
Ooh. So it can for simplified taxes, but where you have to have creative taxes, and my favorite slogan for our company is outside the box but never over the line, right? So scenario 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it goes, as opposed to saying, wait, like, I just ran a scenario for a client, how they're currently set up, that if they stay the way they are, they're going to owe $42,000. By the time I did the fifth scenario, without paying any more taxes, they would get a refund of $1,800. Right? Can it do that? To a degree, but can it understand some of the things that they may or may not qualify? It might be one of those situations where it throws mud against the wall and see what sticks, as opposed to maybe giving you one or two ideas that is pre-programmed for. At some point, maybe it does. Maybe you no longer need a H&R Block. Maybe you no longer need a Liberty Tax, because they're normally doing more simplified taxes. So at the end of the day, maybe for $25, you get your taxes done by your AI and you're comfortable.
Listen, it's real. Look at this guy right here. Elon made a bunch of these, and it's $30,000. And
iRobot.
Listen, I feel like we are going to go into an era where we're at Walmart, and we all know exactly what you were talking about, because a lot of the times they have replaced all of the different cashier. If you remember, like, how we were, back in the day growing up, when you go to the supermarket, they had a person, a cashier in every single aisle, you know what I'm saying? Especially on a Sunday. Now it's totally different. Everything is self-checkout. They're getting better at it, and they're changing the actual barcode on it so that when you just walk past the scanner, it's changed.
Let me tell you, not to interrupt you, but it's so crazy. They understand that they're going to lose a certain amount of money and shrink from people stealing, and that's still less expensive than hiring somebody to do the work. That's how crazy it is.
Well, it's not, because they created this new invincible barcode thing that goes on every single product. So when you walk out, you actually can't walk out. It actually checks you out, and it actually will.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, they are on top. They're on top of that thing like crazy. But that thing is $30,000. I won't be surprised if it's not going to be working inside. It's going to take factory jobs. They'll be able to drive different trucks. I mean, nobody's really talking about this thing, and we need to talk about it. Like, I see Elon Musk; he's very hugged up on Trump.
Yes,
I'm telling you right now, we have to really understand what is, about to happen, and what we need to do in order to really get back into it. Because service jobs, like, people pay for services. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in a gym business. So at the end of the day, like, our personal training, I don't think a robot can take that over. But what if there is, some sort of
But
I will
they have technology now that people are trying to train straight through the phone. Gives you an app, scans your body, gives you. And now whether it's accurate or not, I don't
We
know.
have that. Well, no. We have that. We have
Yeah.
you talking about the in-body scan. You can
Mhm.
stand in front of it. You can turn, and it basically takes all that stuff. None of that stuff matters because at the end of the day, people need accountability. So
Yeah.
with accountability, if you don't have accountability, you can give all the technology in the world. People are overweight, and the only way a person cannot be overweight is by accountability.
Yep.
I will go as far as knocking on a person's house. You know what I'm saying? Uh, as far as taxes,
Yeah.
I can't see a person trusting in a robot if they were to be audited by the IRS. You know what I'm
Well, I
saying?
mean, who's to blame?
Yeah.
Who's to blame, right? I think it goes back to the accountability, but I do think that now in the future, and I'm maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but maybe the following year
Yeah.
in 2027, you're doing your 2027 taxes, or 2026 taxes in 2027. There might be hundreds of thousands of people that really go to an AI bot to do the tax reform. They scan their documents in, boom, 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 and next thing there goes, you owe $1,725.
Speaking of taxes, the next
Mhm.
question is looking ahead, right?
Mhm.
What tax strategies should small businesses owners like how can they adapt to maximizing their savings because we're hit with all different types of things
Mhm.
and like how can they invest in their growth over the coming year? Should they
Well,
focus on expansion? Should they
no, I'm
not?
gonna tell you the biggest one. The biggest one is it looks like the tax rate is going to go from 21%. And for those who don't know, there's so many different corporate tax structures. So I'm not talking about millions of pass throughs. I'm talking about taxes that actually pay taxes on their own income, not
For
the
small
pass.
businesses, for
Yeah,
small
correct,
okay.
correct. So small businesses, but again, small business, small according to the IRS is under 10 million, under 500 employees. So
Okay.
it varies. But what I'm saying is the companies that pay their own taxes, which sometimes is better, the tax rate is dropping from 21% to 15%.
Oh,
So
okay.
what that means is if, in essence, if you made $1 million of profit, instead of paying $210,000, you're paying $150,000.
Wait,
Right?
is this under Trump now?
Yes.
That he's gonna do. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Well, he
so
still has to put it in play.
yeah. So I would suspect that won't happen for 2024's taxes, but for 2025's taxes, that's what happened.
2025. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
He is increasing the R&D credit, which is a research and development credit. So for companies understanding how to use that properly, you can get a huge break for trying to discover new technology, different ways. So you could actually get to write off your R&D credits to a different degree beyond not
What's
just
the R&D? What's the R&D?
research and development. Research
Resource.
and
Oh,
development.
okay, okay. So
Yes,
something that you can bring to the table that's new.
correct.
Yeah, I see a lot of those. They're incentivizing a lot of innovation and technology and things like that. Even
Well,
right now. Yeah.
I'll do you one better. So we talked about that robot that you put up.
Yeah.
Let's just say that we can classify that as machinery. So
Right.
in the past, the machinery has what they call a shelf life of 7 years. So
Mhm.
I get to write it off for 7 years, the cost of that product. If I don't take it all at 1 year, they're changing it so there is no shelf life. I get to write off that robot every year of life, of usage of life. So whatever I get to use for as long as I own it, I can write it off.
Wow.
So
Wow.
and it's machinery. So imagine now you're buying large machinery. You get to write off the use of that machinery every single year. Um,
And on top of that, that thing can serve people. So a restaurant owner, you don't have to give it tips. 30,000 you can pay $30,000 for about 10 of those things, right?
mhm,
Not 10, let's just say 5, right?
mhm,
So basically you're spending 150,000 one time, right? And I'm
mhm.
pretty sure they have some sort of maintenance mechanism or something like that, which
Correct.
you pay on a monthly basis to make sure like it doesn't malfunction. You have some sort of
Mhm.
warranty for it. But $30,000, right? You are basically going to have you're not going to have call outs. You're going to have, they could answer the phones, they could be hostess. Like you can literally just obliterate the
I
working class.
I
But
will tell you though, I think there's gonna be an uptick in businesses created. And again, I don't know how that's gonna work. I think that's gonna come out of two reasons, right? The first one is the job that you once had, if you don't have a technical job, you probably won't have that job, right? If
right,
it's
right.
something that a machine can replace you, so then how do you And maybe I create your own business. And then secondly, I think that there's going to be so many tax breaks. It makes more sense to have a business that you can write off almost everything under the sun, as opposed to kind of not having it. So for the on the personal side, the tax rates actually. So Donald Trump put a thing in where he dropped the tax rates by 1 or 2% based on your bracket, right, up to 4%. So realistically, back in the day, you were at the 39.8% tax bracket if you made a million, if you made 400,000. So now you had to make up to $1 million to get that up that high. So what's going to happen is all these tax rates are going to go up. So they're going to go back up 2 to 3%. So on the same money you made, you're going to pay more taxes. However, anybody in the Northeast who pays a state tax, a city tax, property taxes out the roof, you got hit what they call a SALT tax, right? Which is for all your like taxes withheld out of your paycheck, real estate taxes, personal property taxes, anything of that nature. I have a client that lost $35,000 in deductions because that tax capped you at 10,000 all in. Their property taxes were 12,000.
Wow.
So they lost it right there. That might come back into play. I think there's enough complaints about that it may come back into play. And
Wait, but were they not on point with it? How did they lose?
no, bro. It's so what happens is it was killing people. So if you know what your effective tax rate is the number you actually pay taxes on. So if you're in a 40%, 30% tax bracket, but after all your deductions, you only pay tax on 12% of your money, that's your effective tax rate. That was killing the effective people's effective tax rates, because if I'm leaving $30,000 on the table, I just lost $200 on refunds that I can't have. So now I'm actually paying taxes on more of my money. I'm paying a higher tax rate on my money. So at the end of the day, hopefully that goes away. But they're also flirting with the idea of your car interest being a tax deduction.
Wow.
So they're flirting with that. There's going to be some ups and downs, man. There's going to be some give and takes. Some of the things I like, i.e. the Social Security. So we all have grandparents that are on Social Security, and they have to pay tax on that money if they have anything other than Social Security. So let's just say grandma had a pension and worked for the school district and makes $40,000 on her pension a year, and she gets Social Security. Well, now her Social Security is taxable. What they're proposing is if you're on Social Security, it's not taxable. So that would be, but the ebb and flow of that is that if for anybody who doesn't know, the IRS stands for Internal Revenue Service, where the government creates revenue for the government, right? So for some of these programs that we have, that's what funds them, right? The Internal Revenue Service. So that's how the government collects all its money and then spreads it out to the different coffers. At the end of the day, there will not be as much. They're talking about in 10 years, a $3 trillion deficit based on not collecting enough taxes to do what we need to get done. So there's an ebb and flow to it. Some people say that's great, but then what if it hurts you long term? Right? What if it hurts you long term? There's a possibility that we won't be able to fund Social Security anymore.
Wow.
So if the whole paying about 10% of your Social Security in taxes allows your social taxes to last 3 to 4 more generations, is it worth it?
Wow.
As opposed to maybe in 4 to 6 years, there's no more Social Security. So those of you who have no 401ks, those of you who have no IRAs, those of you who have no kind of retirement planning, what are you going to do?
Got it. So shifting on consumer trends, what consumer trends should shape small business opportunities for 2025 and beyond?
I'm going to tell you that on the consumer side, anybody that has a fringe business, a marginal income business, and for those of what I'm explaining, let's just say you have a jet ski business.
Okay.
And it's hot. Like you rent jet ski rides or you sell jet skis. When money gets tight, the first thing that goes are the fringe spending expenses. Do we need a jet ski or do we need groceries?
Right.
So
making alternative decisions.
Yeah. So you start making life-changing decisions. So now instead of maybe 100 sales a month, now you're getting 30 sales a month. So what does that mean? The price of jet skis has to go up, right? In order to call it's we're all linked. Our economy is so linked that a couple of different items can tilt the balance. Unfortunately, we won't really know what the full effect of it is, but I will tell you that you're going to have to go into something that's more necessity based. You're going to have to go in something that caters to more high end net worth individuals.
Right.
Because if it's a hey, I just want to do it because I have a couple extra dollars for my kids, that may or may not happen. If inflation goes up, think about this. They're projecting inflation will go up because the tariffs, right?
Mm.
And for those who don't understand, a tariff is like a sales tax for foreign companies.
Yes.
I don't know if you understand this. When you go to the store and they charge you 6% sales tax, who pays that tax?
We do.
Correct. The consumer pays it, right? So the consumer pays it, then they take that money and give it to the government.
Right.
So if that's the case, it's going to cost you more for the same items.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So
if they put tariffs on China, because that's what he's talking about doing,
60%,
all their exports.
60% in China to China.
What is it now currently?
None.
There's no tariffs on China right now?
No.
Why? Why?
Because there just isn't. I mean, there's no tariffs on China. So they're talking about 10% on everybody else. And the reason why he wants to do 60% on China, because China taxes us a little bit, right? They charge us a tariff.
Yeah.
But you got to think about it though. If the same item that you had a year and a half ago is double, it makes you reevaluate. Do you want to buy it? If I'm getting charged 60%, can you imagine trying to get a foreign car that has any Chinese connections?
Yeah. Or so everything is going to go up. The prices of everything will go up.
Correct.
Oh.
So now inflation goes up. So inflation, like I was telling you before, things start costing more, but no, it costs more with inflation. Your house.
Wow.
So in the 80s, interest rates were like 10 and 12% for houses. It was astronomical.
Right.
And then it got to as low as 2% in the like mid 2010s. It got super low. People started refinancing their house like crazy. The same house
because of the bubble.
Yep, the same house. But that's what happened in inflation, right? It gets so high that it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know if you ever, and I know I have a different kind of mind, but I'll drive through like these places that look like they have very little to no population. And I'll see all these McMansions and I'll see all these. I'm like, where do they work?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I do that all the time. Yeah.
What do they do? Because how are you able to afford this house?
Right.
So if you don't have a house, if you're a young guy in school and college and you want to buy a house in 4 to 5 years, the cost of the house that's $150,000, maybe $250,000. Will your salary be able to compensate for that? I mean, my parents in 1976 were going to buy a house for $19,000.
Right.
19 grand. Like, there's cars that cost way more than that. I'm not even talking about good cars. I'm talking about your 10-year-old used cars.
The Mitsubishi is like 24. The little ones. Right.
Right. So understanding if the price of income doesn't keep up with the price of cost, that's what causes a depression and a recession. Right. Can we no longer afford to pay for what we're getting? So that's the fear, I believe. I believe the fear is, will he take us in a direction where, yeah, we're making all these cuts and we're doing all these different things, but A, we have less jobs. B, we have higher costs of goods. C, we have so many people not able to pay for even the necessities that some decisions have to be made. So if I'm a company, I understand that going in and say, hey, there's a possibility that this service we may not offer anymore because realistically people won't go for it. We need to figure out a necessity ad or something. Like, let's be honest, food is always going to be one. So restaurants, now, I don't know if you've been out lately, but you go out on one dinner and an appetizer, one drink, and the bill is $175, right? For you and your significant other.
Right.
That's because they have their built-in profit margins, capped in. So they're going to have to do some things that try to lower the cost, because if not, people won't be eating out, right? They start making sense. Hey, we're going to go to the grocery store. We're cooking more. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so now, like, I've seen more Burger Kings and Fridays out of business.
Yeah. A lot are going out of business. So
those places were like Fridays was like an instant money situation.
Right.
But the prices and the service and everything else started declining because it cost more, and they were keeping the prices the same. So now the profit margins are either stale or they're declining. Therefore, it's impossible to make money. I'm going to tell y'all a little secret. There is not a single business in America that's, except for nonprofits, that are in business not to make money.
Mm.
Right. So why would they continue?
Nonprofits are into it to make money.
Denny's is going out of business. They're closing 100, 150 restaurants
Mm,
because guess what? They try to keep their food at a low cost point. But the
mm.
problem is the cost of the food keeps going up.
Yeah. I mean, being in a fitness industry and we, dealing with certain clients that want that weight loss, that journey. I mean,
Mhm.
there's certain folks that, we have to have those uncomfortable conversations. Well, hey man, I'm not able to afford this right now. And we have to work out, different things because, we care about our clients and stuff like that. But
Yep.
what about all the other places where, it's not really services, but it's the actual items. Like you have to
Mhm.
just go and grin and bear it and basically deal with it. And there's no negotiation and basically talking about
Mhm.
everything. This also brings me to what happened with the dock workers before. If you remember, um,
Correct.
they came to a negotiation, but they were saying that at one point in time that this could have seriously
Huge
hurt the
effect.
economy.
Huge
And
effect.
right
Mhm.
here, yeah, just to basically break that down, when we're looking at this, they were talking about, and people were really complaining, like saying, like, "Oh, well, they're making $39 an hour, and they're getting overtime and stuff like that." And we were actually, we were supposed to touch on this before,
Mhm.
but yeah, like it's a lot where people are asking for an increase in pay. They're talking about 32% in increase, what I'm saying, as far as the 5-year contract. And people are saying, oh no, that's wrong. Why are they complaining so much? But I mean, what's your take on it? Like where
Well,
they
I tell you, like I said before, everything is interconnected.
yeah,
So a $32 per hour increase, where are they getting that money from, Mark? Where's that going to come from?
right, from profits.
They're going to charge the freight people who are shipping the items more. So
Right.
if it goes up by 32%, you're going to pay 32% more to ship your product to me, right? Because now I got to charge you 32% more to move it off of your ship onto my dock. So
Okay.
it's going to trickle down. And guess what? If I got to get charged 32% more to move your product, you got to give me 32% more to ship it, and so
Okay.
on and so forth, right? So, and that's what I'm telling you, that we have to be careful because America is allowed to be greedy. Like honestly, that's part of our situation. Capitalism is steeped in greed, right? It's
Right.
not. I had a conversation a long time ago with a gentleman who told me that he'd prefer a truly capitalistic society, and I
Right.
told him no, he didn't want that. We are part socialist, part capitalistic. Social Security is socialism.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? You get lunch, free lunch to kids for the underprivileged kids is socialism. And
right.
it's okay to a degree to make sure that, people have an opportunity to live. Because if you don't have socialism or some of it to an aspect, you have anarchy. And
Mm,
I explained it to him. I said, I don't want to get into the whole redlining in a housing situation, but if I'm dirt poor and there's no bottom line, there's no safety net for me to get to, I'm not going to rob people in my neighborhood because they don't have any money. I'm coming to your neighborhood to rob you. I'm going
mm,
to steal your car. I'm going to rob your nice house because you have money and things, right? So that is actually done more so to keep everybody in check. And you have to understand the same concept. We don't want to have where one people are hurting so much that it affects another people, right? And
mm,
that's, we're supposed to be all Americans. We're supposed to be all about helping each other. But capitalism is steeped in greed, right? Without capitalism, um, you're not going to have some of these billionaires. I mean, you got these guys. This comedian said the other day, Jeff Bezos is so rich, he got divorced and he's still the richest man,
yeah.
right? He lost half of his assets and he's still the richest man.
Right.
It's hard to be that rich with the capitalism. It's just how it goes. So at the end of the day, we kind of get in trouble because the whole thing is, oh, me, take, 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 take. But what's the net effect? Right.
Yeah.
What's the net effect? Are we hurting ourselves? And we're going to find out. Republicans are definitely more for capitalism. From anybody who read the projected whatever they're trying to do, cut the educational thing, cut a lot of different government programs, and that's normally what Republicans do. They come and cut government programs,
Yeah.
and what happens is people figure it out.
Yeah, they've had some fears right now. There's a lot of teachers that are on edge because he said something like he's going to get rid of the Department of Education.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get rid of that altogether because if that's the case, then every school becomes private.
Right. But you're talking about secretary. He literally has a cabinet member that's a secretary of education, secretary of like the Department of Labor, the Department of
Mhm.
Education. Why not put your secretary in there to do your bidding? Isn't that like a part of your cabinet? I didn't understand that part, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
every major area has a cabinet member that's responsible for the enacting the chores or the goals of the sitting president for their
yeah,
plans of operation.
yeah,
And if that's the case, like I think a lot of things need to be tweaked. Honestly, unfortunately, it's a big country, so you can't perfect everything at one time. It's going to take generations to get some things right.
yeah.
But cutting education only affects one one economic group, right?
Mm,
Because private school kids are going to still go to private school. They don't get a lot of their funding from, and any of those that get partial funding from the state, what's going to happen is they're going to go ahead and not get this and just raise tuition, and then people are going to pay it. So we have to just understand there's going to be some kind of a trickle effect. Anytime there's a push, there's a pull. So we want to make sure that we're able to not only push but pull, but it should be a fairly even shift. So
right,
I think
right.
that's the biggest fear out here. I think the biggest fear is that how is this going to affect me and my household,
Right.
and we'll see.
So, so one of the things that I wanted to get to as well, we got to talk about the immigration. The
Mhm,
immigration is definitely, some people are saying that this can actually hurt the economy because they're
mhm,
going to be spending over $22 billion in mass deportation. So,
mhm.
we got to talk about that. Let me get into it. This guy, before we get your opinion on it, because I know you're busy, I know you got your
Yeah,
press for time, and I thank you for taking this time. But
no, absolutely.
let's get into this one right here.
So why are these economists so opposed to Trump's plan? Because the economic effects would be pretty terrible. This is a study done by Bloomberg Economics, and they found that Harris's plan did not have much change in either the GDP or inflation, which in a sense is a good thing at this point. But look at what Trump's plan would do. Trump's plan would cut the GDP by 8.9%. Let me put that in perspective for you. This is roughly twice the amount that the GDP went down during the financial crisis. So we would be looking at something between a recession and a depression. And interestingly, I'm sure people know because we've talked about this many times, the tariffs would cause certainly a part of this. But the biggest cause
We're just speaking about the tariffs.
actually of this
Mhm,
drop are the mass deportations that Trump is talking
mhm.
about, because he would take huge pieces of our labor force out of the country, send them back or send them somewhere else. And the result would be business wouldn't have labor. They wouldn't be able to produce things. And you'd have this enormous economic contraction.
So let me ask you a question, Mark. He brought up a great point. I don't know if anybody's ever done any kind of construction projects on their house lately, indoor, outdoor.
Hmm.
You got a foreman comes in, he has some workers that are working for him. And listen, they do a great job.
Hmm.
Those guys are getting paid a fraction of what somebody that will go to American college or somebody that has an American diploma will come in and charge them.
Right.
Again, the end user gets the cost. The person who's providing the service is not eating that cost.
Mm,
So if you want to remodel your bathroom, instead of being 18,000, it might be 28,000
mm,
because I now have to pay unionized, higher waged individuals.
right.
And one thing he didn't talk about and didn't touch on, I think he mentioned 22 illegal aliens. Is that what he said? 22
Yeah.
million? What's the cost to get them out?
80. They said $22 billion
Wh- where is that coming from?
a year or something like that. It was
Yeah,
like 22
it's an
billion.
astronomical number because first of all, you have to pay people to find them. Then you have to pay them to detain them. Then when they're detained, you have to pay to feed them. Then you have to pay to transport them.
Right.
There's a lot of different pieces to that.
A lot of moving parts. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so realistically, that's going to actually create you're removing a working class. And again, I'm not saying they're the only working class. They're for lack of a better term, they're inexpensive labor, right? And
Yeah.
inexpensive labor ends up saving you money because now I can charge you less for the same price, right?
Right. But well, some people would argue that that actually hurts the economy as well.
How so?
Because when you look at it from what a person is supposed to be paying, businesses make money off of cheap labor. You know what I'm saying? The less amount of money that you can pay a person, the better for the business owner because you have higher margins.
You want to hear something funny?
Huh?
I was watching a show. So I love to research different things. Like I hear things, and Mark, Mark, you'll hear things. You send me a text. Is this true? Is this right? I'm like, no,
yep.
that's not true. So,
no, it's not true.
Well, so check this out. So there was a guy who was saying they actually they want to hire American workers. They want to pay them a wage, but like apple picking and picking the fruit and certain things, they can't find anybody to work. They have to pay extra to the government and a higher tax in order to get that correct. There's a tax out there that they have to pay for not using American workers, like some kind of a fee that they have to pay. And they were like, the guy was like, I would actually prefer to have, he said, I post jobs, I post this. He said, they don't want to do that work. Whereas other people who
they're not paying them enough and they have to pay them more. The reality of it is like you said, services and working, they want to pay a person less money. So a person has to feed and survive for their family. So they're not going to take a menial job. Whereas before, being a blue collar worker, you can definitely 100% pay something.
And Mark, think about this. Where are all the factory jobs?
All the factory jobs are overseas.
Right. And then here's the thing. They'll take the factory jobs overseas. They'll ship it to the factory that's in the United States so they can expatriate and get everything in the United States to pay less taxes, and then have a skeleton crew here to manage that. All right. So realistically, at the end of the day, they're only paying jobs that even if they were low paying, because you got to start somewhere, right? And let's be honest, I laugh because they want people at McDonald's to make $28 an hour. If you're a manager, I get it. McDonald's is supposed to be a starter job. It's supposed to be you come in and learn how to drop fries. You learn how to show up on time, be responsible. You learn how to get a paycheck and manage your money so that you can move on. That's why mostly times in McDonald's is kids working, right? It's supposed to be. There's like we have a situation now where kids come out of college with no experience want the same pay that a person with 25 years of experience is getting, but they can't offer the same level of quality of a product. So then what happens? I'm not telling you that maybe there's definitely some, how can I say this gently, being taken advantage of for a migrant worker, right? But for them, they weren't making that money in their country.
But see, here's the thing though. So it's not about little kids. We think that it's about little kids, but it's not about little kids.
No, it's not.
So my thing is, it all goes down to the net profit. I'm not like trying to bash, different, places.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at McDonald's, for example, like just how you said it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at McDonald's, right, how much did they make last year? Hold on, let me just show you. So last year they generated. Let me just show you. So last year they generated $25.49 billion in revenue, $8.47 billion in net income. 20. Mm-hmm. So somebody walked away with a cool $8 billion after their, after their gross.
After expenses.
So, after expenses and everything like that. So my point is, somebody could have. So this is going directly into somebody's pocket. This is going into
not always though. Not just to play nuance, just to play devil's advocate. Sometimes the 8.4 billion goes into creating new stores, creating more jobs.
Of course.
Sometimes technology and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you a better one though. A better one if you show me the profits of gas.
Right.
Everybody was blaming the politicians for high gas. It ain't the politicians. It's the people saying, "Hey, this time charge them a little bit more."
Right.
Charge them a little bit more. Because they have record high profits. Not they're doing better this year than they did last year. They have record high profits. People, in order to make a profit, you have to receive more than it costs you to make. Right. So basically, I'm now just saying, hey, let's make it 350 today. How do you feel about 350? You like 350? Yeah, okay. Right. I always laughed. Gas normally gets delivered once a week, right? If anybody's ever come like on a Wednesday or whatever your area is, and they just have that big truck and they dump it. That day it was 255. The next day is 257. How did the same gas that they just dumped become 2 cents higher?
Mm.
No one ever thinks about this. Go up and say, "Oh, gas went up a little bit." How?
Right.
How? It's in the ground because they're speculating. Gas is all about speculation. People control outflows of gas production so they can control the price of gas. It's manipulated and it's rigged. And that's what I said. Like,
So
yep.
gas right here, ExxonMobil, Chevron, Shell, right? So when you look at how much they made, this is ridiculous. But I mean, look, this is the end of the year end, and this is the quarter right here.
Yep.
So they're making bank. You know what I'm saying? Exxon was 36 billion, Chevron 21 billion.
Is that billion? Look at that number. That's billion?
Yeah, there's a billion. But
Yeah.
billion. Yeah, they
Yep.
made a billion.
36 billion, right? 36 billion in profits.
Right. Right.
So the cost of gas hasn't changed.
No, it's basically going up. But if you are trying to keep your net profit down, then you're paying a kid to pump our gas. And yes, we're in New Jersey, so people still pump our gas in Jersey.
Our gas would be lower if we didn't have to pump it, by the way.
You said what?
Our gas would be lower if we didn't have to pump it.
Of course, but I don't know why they don't trust us. Like they're like, nah, dog. There's too many nuclear.
There's a couple of cities that kind of ruined that for us. I ain't gonna mention them names.
Yeah. It's a couple of nuclear places. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So listen, I don't really. We have to take this thing with a grain of salt. But the whole point, you know what I'm saying, for everybody and the viewers basically watching, let us know what your comments are. The goal for this is to basically to really talk to small businesses so that you can see that you can prosper. For a small business, just basically just getting by, the owners basically struggling to make ends meet. What do you have to say to that person, Pete?
I just think, honestly, a CEO of a small business, which sometimes wears several different hats, will have to actually spend more time in that CEO role and start pre-planning 18 to 20, 26 months in advance, right? You're going to have to really understand the trends of the market, of your market, and be ahead of it. You cannot afford to be behind the curve, whether it's what you're doing is no longer viable and you switch it to, do you need to have more cash, reserve more cash to deal with the upturns and the downturns? I'm going to tell you right now, if we have a depression, cash is king, right? Everything, your stocks going to go down, crypto's going to go down because we're all tied together. So like the they call it the gold standard. They call it the gold standard because gold is the standard, right? At the end of the day, you're going to have to figure out how to be ahead of the changes that are coming. And who knows what those changes are based on your industry. But if you're the expert in your industry, if you know well what's going on, just like, electric cars, how much longer a garage is going to be needed if we have nothing but electric fleet? Right. So what can you do now to offer something different? Can you replace the electric battery? Can you do some other things? I don't know. I'm just telling you right now that just like some of these restaurants are going bye-bye, there'll be some job that they used to go, remember you used to have a mechanic? Remember?
Right.
So I mean, and maybe that's 30 to 40 years from now. I'm not saying it's tomorrow. I'm just saying, understand your industry, look at the trend analysis and where it's going. Is it making money? Is it losing money? And a lot of times the public sector will give you a good viewpoint of what's going on in the private sector, right? That's what's going on. So I would look at that and take heed to that and move accordingly.
There we go. Well, I do appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Let us know what's going